You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
Hi, folks. Thanks for listening to the Making Data Simple series. We're back again. This is Al Martin speaking, and today I have Tom Hronis. Did I get that right? Is that
yes,
the knack?
Sir. My Hronis.
So Tom is the, let's see if I can get this right, worldwide go-to-market digital technical enablement, engagement, what?
Engagement, something like that. So I'm responsible for pretty much digital transformation for hybrid data management for the company, including anything sales related to digital, et cetera.
So I think we had Nancy Hensley. I don't know if you know Nancy.
Sure do.
Sure you do. She's everywhere. And she's on a previous podcast that the audience can go listen to. But she talked about our digital transformation. And I'm going to start by saying the same thing I said to her to you. And that is, it seems like we overuse the word digital. I mean, it's like everything digital. And I'm guilty as well. You know, when I've driven client success, we call it the digital transformation there, digital client success. So what makes it unique and what is digital technical enablement or engagement?
What makes IBM unique is that we realize that we've got thousands of feet on the street that aren't going away anytime soon that interface with our customers. So while we can't replace our direct sales model entirely, what we've decided to do, and I see this catching catching some steam in the industry, is we've decided to use some tricks with our digital assets to assist our field sales teams in closing business. So while most people think of digital transformation as, oh my God, we got to get our products ready and for digital consumption, IBM thinks of it to be both the assets to be digitally consumed as well as the Salesforce leveraging digital assets to close business. So what we're really doing is we're streamlining the sales process. I think last year, prior to getting involved in digital technical engagement, we had countless of POCs that were done, sending people all over the world to try to, basically stand up infrastructure when we could have had readily available digital assets to do that over the web. This year, that number has been reduced dramatically because we've been able to provide the assets that are available for people to use in the POC capacity remotely, right? So rather than sending 2 or 3 people across the world, we'll send one guy across the world to do something like that, right? It'll be efficient. We're looking for efficiencies with our digital engagements.
So, but if coming back to where we started, if there's a 2-line sentence or a 30-second answer, how do you describe the digital transformation the industry is going through right now?
So I would say it is not only consuming via a digital consumption model, meaning buying, going online and actually procuring. It's also leveraging assets that are going to enable a customer where they in the past might have had to pay for that information. And it's putting them on a journey to understand products digitally without being sold, and only capturing data from a customer when absolutely necessary. So we found that people don't want to enter information, usernames, passwords, email addresses, phone numbers, the way people have traditionally asked for them in the past. We want people to go through a process, and then if they're interested, then they'll engage the organization to participate in the sales process. Now that's what defines us.
Well, I got it. But then I've got a follow-on question to a statement that you made. You say without being sold, sales would seem to be the antithesis of digital. And that's why a lot of organizations are reducing or reorganizing, optimizing, whatever you want to say, their sales around digital. But you said sales will use the digital assets to close deals. So I guess what I hear you saying is that sales can coexist with digital assets. Can you describe that or give an example?
Yeah, I apologize. That sounds a little oxymoronic, but let me sort of elaborate. In the past, we found that one of our customers had received a call from one of our salespeople, didn't really know the guy very well, didn't have a lot of time, And the guy said, if you can send me something in the form of a video or some kind of information that'll allow me to get up to speed rather quickly, if I'm interested, I'll call you back. So we were able to facilitate that customer through a video that we had created that's part of our library so that that person can enable themselves before they wanted to go to step 2 in the sales process, right? So there are different tools that we could leverage at different aspects of the sales process, different stages of the sales process, so that we could facilitate several different types of sales.
All right, fair enough.
That makes sense?
It does make sense. No, it makes sense. What's the balance, though? You've got a company like IBM and many other companies out there that have existed for a while, where you've got an on-prem client base, likely used to, or particularly large accounts used to a traditional sales structure. And then you've also got this transformation to digital for what I would call, I guess, commercial accounts. Can you describe how you see the balance and how we're tackling that?
Absolutely. So let's tackle the traditional sales model. So as we have some newer salespeople on board, we wanted to give them a library of videos that they could leverage. Maybe they're industry related. Maybe they're related to a complementary product that might help sell product. For example, data is kind of boring, right? If we could give them an asset that was related to something like Cognos or a BA tool, that might assist them. But what we've done is we've basically segmented our digital sales process for our field teams into 3 different areas. The first one is a set of 3 videos that they can extend to the customers. And those are really not marketing videos. We've been traditionally used to marketing videos. So they're more of a deep dive, how to configure, that type of thing. They're very professorial in nature. And then we've got something called a product tour. And the product tour is I've actually enabled myself and products outside of hybrid data management. The product tour is a sort of a click-through process. It's about 15 minutes. It gives you kind of a guided tour of the product so that you could actually test it on your own. And most of these product tours are not gated, so you don't have to fill out any information. You don't have to tell them who you are. You just basically go through it. And if you're happy with that, then we hope to take you to the next step, which is where our Salesforce really can help a customer, which is a hands-on lab. And those are the labs. I alluded to that earlier when I had mentioned POCs and spending all this money to go across the world. These are actual hands-on labs that sit on a SkyTap server in our software facility. There's no download and go. The products are configured. Some of these labs are an hour, some are 4 hours, some are 4 days, some are a week. You would go online, enter your information, you'll be given a scheduled time, and you'll walk through the lab. There'll be a step-by-step process. And if you'd also like to participate in leveraging the product without the lab, we give you access to the Linux console. Those are VMware images, and they're cleaned every time somebody is done with use. There's 60 concurrent customers at any time, 60 different images that can be leveraged. So we found that that's a great way for our sales force to extend the products to the customer without sending, infrastructure, configuration, that type of thing, without leveraging true physical resource to participate in the process. And of course, if somebody's interested in a technical specialist, we can always engage them. In the past, we've only reserved those technical specialists for our sort of premier accounts. Now we've opened that group of individuals up to our entire account base. No IBMer will be left behind. No customer will be left behind. And so to get in the second part of your question, so we talked about how the IBMers and our Salesforce leverages the infrastructure. What we've also done is we've joined forces with marketing. So we're looking for new logos, new customers on top of our traditional, account base. And so what we're doing there is we're replacing many of the assets that you see on IBM.com with more professorial-like assets from DTE, Digital Technical Engagement, that really give you that deep dive. You'll be able to configure a product on your own. You'll be able to request a resource on IBM.com. We'll be able to know you as a customer. You'll be able to create an account. We'll be able to service you, and you'll be able eventually, and this is where Nancy comes in, you'll be able to digitally consume within 5 minutes. And that's our goal. If you like what you see, you've gone through the customer journey, and you wish to purchase, you'll be able to consume within 5 minutes and be up and running.
Very good. So does this apply for cloud, cloud private, on-prem? Is it the same approach on that crosses all those form factors, or do you have unique approaches for each that kind of culminate into what you described?
So the approach is the same. However, some of the products that you discussed, ICP, Cloud Private, some of our local products that people don't want to purchase products in the cloud, et cetera, the process is the same. Procurement for the local products is a bit different, right? So we're still going to extend the digital assets, the hands-on labs, and the product tours to the customers. For some of the local products, they'll be done slightly differently. For example, Sailfish, our IBM integrated analytics system, of course, we cannot create a VMware image in SkyTap to facilitate a proof of concept for Sailfish. So what we've done is we've purchased a machine that is dedicated to DTE by appointment only. So you'll be able to request utilization of the machine through the website, and you'll be contacted by a specialist, and we'll be able to vet the account and go through the rules of engagement, and you'll be able to actually test Sailfish data warehousing appliance live online for a specific period of time.
So let me see if I can oversimplify and summarize what I believe you've stated. In terms of the digital transformation, whether it's IBM or not, it's really two parts. One is the automation of the sales process through digital assets. And then secondly, making offerings digitally available to buyers just as well. And as you've done that, you have focused on three areas of focus. Focus area one was the deep technical dives through videos. Focus area two was a product tour, which is like a 15 to 20 minute tour to really enamor the listener or the user such that they're intrigued by the said product. And then focus three is a hands-on lab that essentially replaces the traditional proof of technology. Pretty good.
Now it's let me forewarn you. We can't replace all of our proof of technologies. Some people want a pretty extensive POC or POT, whatever you call it. Then at least we'll reduce the amount of proof of technologies that we'll do. I mean, we'll be able to facilitate most of those online, but if somebody really needs an extensive proof of technology, we're still going to make our assets available for that purpose, right? Our human resources and our infrastructure will still be available, but it'll be reserved for people who have requirements that are a bit more in depth.
So in this methodology or prescriptive methodology that you just have outlined, do you see this as pretty much fundamental or foundational for every company, or do you see this as, you said we at IBM, is this uniquely our approach?
I would say you cannot survive without it, Al. We're finding as more and more software assets become commoditized, we're finding that it's quite expensive to service a customer these days. Customers also are begging for these types of technologies, so I'd say no, it is not unique to IBM. People want to be able to be up late at night, research. They need to be able to go through the customer journey and purchase on the fly. They don't want to wait for a lengthy sales cycle. That customer at an account, maybe it's a Fortune 500 account that has never touched a company like IBM or a competitor. If somebody's up late at night, a developer, and gets curious, we're going to want to be able to service that person 24/7. We're not going to be, waiting till business hours open to be able to engage that customer. So we want to give them a rich experience, and we want to be able to streamline costs. It's very expensive to send people across the world. It's expensive to, be redundant. I find that many times in the sales process, you repeat the same things over and over, and you send the same people to the same place over and over. And so to me, in order to be competitive in the software market moving forward, it's something that you have to adopt. It's not optional.
Does this mean that essentially we're driving a 24/7 sales engagement through these digital assets, but also do you have to have almost an instantaneous chat to a salesperson available 24/7 as well?
Yes, absolutely. I believe that we've started doing that. I think most customers have been used to a sales expert being available 24/7 or a chatbot. we think that we need to do better than that. We need to make sure that the best of the best is available at any given period of time. So that's something that we're incorporating into future releases of what we're doing with DTE. But I think the problem in the past has been organizations have basically created digital assets. They've enabled chats or chatbots, but they haven't put the best people behind those technologies. You never know who's going to be online. You never know if it's an executive who might be unhappy with a competitor, right, that might want to engage you. Somebody like Al Martin's not going to be able to be up 24/7, but if we could spread that wealth across the world, right, and engage comparable resources, maybe everyone who's technical has office hours available 2 to 3 hours a week, and we spread that across, the continents. Each resource has that type of requirement. That'll make us a better place. So we're always thinking of better ideas. That's one of them. But I think the myth in the past has been that you just put a chat bot or you put a chat online and whoever's behind it will do the job. And unfortunately, that hasn't been the case, right? We've got to put our best people behind these technologies.
Yeah, but so what's the best practice there then? Because to your point, I would imagine that we could put a Watson Cognitive chatbot there that could help answer questions 24/7, maybe even redirect towards some of the digital assets that you have out there and propagate or kind of foster that self-learning. Or we could put a personalized one-to-one experience with a sales rep on the other end. Which one do you do?
So the answer is both. So the first line of defense will be the AI mechanism. And depending on the question, if it requires expertise, it's going to pass that along. So that'll be some of the logic that's built into the chatbots that are being built as we speak. So you'll be able to ask questions. If they're generic, they'll be answered. If they need expertise, they'll be routed.
All right, fair enough. And look, I'm going to ask this question, even though it may be a little bit rhetorical, because I have my own view on it. I mean, certainly clients, we're in a market of client experience. I mean, client experience wins, and that's predicated on design, ease of use, ease of consumability, et cetera, et cetera. I do buy into the fact that clients want to learn on the fly, no question. However, having said that, these are some complex products very often. I mean, they're not simple calculators. They're answering very complex, deep analytics, some with embedded machine learning. How do you go about creating those three areas of focus for such a, very often complex products that, we'll even need some time to deploy and implement?
That's a great question, because I think when people see DTE or another company, it might be called something else. I think they look at us as the end all be all, or sometimes we're advertised as the end all be all for every customer, every solution. The answer is it's not meant for that. It's meant first line of defense. There are going to be very complicated requirements that a customer puts forth. There are some technologies, for example, I mentioned the Sailfish appliance. That's rather complicated. It's not something that we want anyone to toy around with over the web. So that's why we've made that by appointment only. Our ZOS, DB2 infrastructure, that's also something that we're going to make by appointment only. So there is an argument going back and forth within our organization as to whether or not these assets should be extended through salespeople or readily available to anyone on the internet. The answer is they will be available to anyone on the internet, but for more extensive requirements, there's just no way that we'll be able to facilitate the process through DTE. We've got to leverage our stronger technical skills for that.
Let me ask you something else. What is a client's appetite for what I would call download and go? You mentioned 5 minutes. Is that our target? Is that an industry standard? Is there any studies behind that? 5 minutes is if you can't get it up in 5 minutes, then if you can't get it deployed, you can't get the test running, then you lose the audience. Is there a timeline for that?
So it's a bit of both. We're finding through the competition is actually facilitating in a brief period of time, whether it's 5 minutes or not. But it's going through the assets And once you go through the 3-step process, obviously it's going to take more than 5 minutes to watch 3 videos, right? So they're on average 5 minutes. We found that with the videos, if you go above and beyond 5 minutes, some of them are 7, that's okay. You start to tune people out. So we really want to hit home in about 5 minutes with the videos. Then when we move on to the product tour, which is about 15 minutes, and the hands-on lab, that could be a few hours. But from the time a customer says, I'm interested and I want to consume, that's the goal. Is 5 minutes. It's, people, they need to be up and running rather quickly. I'm sure that 5 minutes isn't going to be make it or break it for most customers, but that's our goal at IBM. And we know that many other competitors out there are looking at that threshold as well.
So the 3 areas of focus, in some sense, they seem intuitive. I know that they're not because I've seen the transformation and us being IBM build those over time. But why are so many clients in the industry having difficulty making this digital transformation?
I think that there are the biggest problem that I think needs to be addressed through digital transformation is integration and migration. I think you've got customers that've got a lot of antiquated infrastructure, a lot of on-prem infrastructure that's been sitting there. Many of them have cloud mandates. When they think of cloud, they think of digital. That word is always interchangeable. And most organizations are struggling with that. I think that's one area at IBM that we found to be, I think, a competitive advantage because we do spend a lot of time and money on migration and integration, right? We've got tools for that. So I think that if there's one area that companies struggle with, it's migration. For example, if you're trying to offload your data infrastructure into the cloud, what's the easiest and best way to do that? And is it cost effective? And what kind of digital experience can I leverage to initiate that process? I think that's the biggest thing that companies that have, sort of comparable technologies to IBM struggle with regularly.
Now, you kind of wave the hand in terms of saying that clients want to learn on the fly. I got to believe there's some client consumers, that are struggling just as well as those selling the product. In other words, if I'm a consumer, I like the old sales rep walking around and coming into my office such that, look, I can talk to him about our complex architecture. He can go review it. He can come back and he can solve my problem versus me going out and having my development team and others go sample the product. Is there a different tier of client that you put in different buckets that has different needs? Like for some need that direct sales and will continue to need that. Others will need the digital, or are you going to say everybody needs both, but we still have the tiers, or what?
So I would say the group that will benefit most from the digital experience would be the commercial accounts, which are either the smaller accounts or customers that are new to IBM, right? They'll probably participate in the process. It'll be very extensive. I would say that being a seller in the past, you would use a portion of the digital experience. For example, if I were selling one of our larger banks, I don't think I would initiate product tours unless we had a group of employees at the customer base that were new or weren't familiar with the products. I would probably delve right into something like a hands-on lab. I would, if I wanted to do a proof of concept, now I've got the SkyTap infrastructure up and running, I would leverage that. So it's a judgment call. What we're creating also, I failed to mention this, but it's a good inroad to it. We're creating something that's a bit more extensive. It's a library through what we call BlueDemos. And in BlueDemos, somebody as a salesperson at IBM or a customer for all that matters will be able to extend to both internally and externally. Every asset that someone's developed worldwide, maybe it's an industry video, so it's a use case for a specific industry. All of those assets, whether they currently exist on our IBM.com site or our DTE site, will be put into that library. So there'll be a bag of tricks that the salesperson or the customer could leverage. So it's pertinent, right? So we're not, going into technologies or use cases that aren't relevant to what we're trying to solve as a business problem.
So I asked the question, but and I think we are doing this, tiering our approach to client engagement. But then it comes back to where we started here is, we've got to automate the sales process digitally irregardless. Because I can tell you from the large clients I visit, they do have good relationships with their sales reps, but they're also almost in all cases leveraging a microservices type of approach where developers are making more of the choices. So that's going to lend itself to some of the digital hands-on that you're talking about. And the business side within many of those large clients is increasingly making the product choice by testing and going out there and see what the products are like versus IT, which can be left out of the purchasing decision. So I guess the way I would answer it, I don't know if you agree or disagree, you're welcome to say. Agreement to disagree is welcome on this podcast, by the way, is that I think the automation of the sales process has to happen while we tier the client base to make sure that we're matching the sales engagement with the client profile.
That's absolutely true. I fully agree. It's got to be matched to the client profile, right? We can't. I know many years ago, some companies out there basically stated, "Hey, we're going to force everyone to move to the cloud." Right? We many companies learn that lesson rather quickly, right? If you understand what the customer's process is and their profile, and you try to basically take them down that road and they're not ready for it, you're going to be sorry. So I have to agree with you. It's got to match the client profile. So you have to tailor it to that.
In fairness, we've looked at something and, like that didn't work. It failed. It didn't hit the audience like we thought it would. Whatever, just some learnings in the process that you've taken. A big part of the cultural change that I think is required, it's required across an entire business that's started out through traditional sales and it's moving towards a digital paradigm. But that is sales itself. Those that are driving traditional sales, tend to, that's what they've known. That's what's worked for them. They've done that well. And I feel like you've got to recognize and reward the sales team for promoting the digital assets, promoting the resources. Is that something that IBM we're doing? Is there specific plans about rewarding, the behavior of leveraging those resources so it kind of continues to grow?
Okay, so what we've done at IBM, we found that there was a group of individuals in sales that felt that the digital assets might be competitive to what the sales team was doing. And so what we did was we basically said, hey, let's figure out a way to reward our sales teams for leveraging this functionality. And we created a page in our Salesforce automation tool that people can check on if they leverage digital assets. And weekly reports are being sent to our executives that will notify them who is participating in the process. Now, we've got contests going on. We've got a point system where we're going to reward people for the most, clicks on our digital engagement page, et cetera. However, we are actively looking at that, and we are rewarding our, in particular, technical sales teams at the end of each quarter if they're leveraging the assets. Because what we've tried to do is keep the same team in place, but increase revenue with the same team in place, right? That our budget's our budget. And so we've got to get creative with the digital assets and start rewarding people if they leverage them.
All right. So we talked about failures. We've talked about the definition. What about, all right, so let's culminate this up or aggregate this up into any success stories you'd like to share.
Yeah, there's one in particular I'd like to share with, can't say the name. DB2 is a well-known name in the industry as a database product that's been around. It's certainly got its status. But when you think of, NoSQL, you think of JSON, you think of, companies outside of IBM who have developed that particular functionality, we were able to leverage our DTE videos and our product tour. There was JSON support that was added to DB2, and we were able to really show some new functionality within the product that the customer found rather interesting through the DTE process. So while that customer didn't go and investigate that on their own, somebody in technical sales extended that asset to the customer, and the customer, just by watching the videos, got curious, and that got curious turned into a proof of technology, and the proof of technology turned into a sale, and it was a rather nice sale. And I don't think it would have happened had they not seen that functionality, newly available functionality within the product through DTE.
Nice. Any others? That's fantastic. That's a good one. I don't know if you can beat that, but
yeah, I mean, I hope that we could, from a new licensing perspective, I hope that could be sort of the poster child for IBM, right? I mean, we're always looking for new licensing. Yeah, there have been, I think there was one deal done on the Cognos side at a rather large account that was the customer actually found the assets on their own, contacted IBM through the site, was assigned a resource. It was a DTE resource through one of my colleagues' teams. They ended up progressing the deal, and it ended up turning into a sale. I don't remember the amount, but it was from end to end. It was a DTE deal, and that was rather nice.
Nice. So, what is your advice for someone that's listening right now that's just getting started with the digital transformation? What are the 2 to 3 things you'd say they should do or consider before getting started, or whatever? Anything goes.
Right. So the first thing I would tell somebody to do, my leader in this area, I work under the guidance of Janine Sneed, who's a wonderful mentor to all of us. She runs she's our chief digital officer for Hybrid Cloud. There's a book that she actually recommended called Subscribed. It's a wonderful book. It's by Tien, Tzuo. It's Tien, last name Tzuo. It's a wonderful book to get started in digital transformation. It'll explain many things to you. I think that aside from reading any books, I would say try to figure out what your strategy, what you think your strategy might be. Because in our case, when we first thought about digital transformation, we thought it was about making our products available via the web and consumable via the web. But we found out rather quickly that while that was one avenue to explore for new revenue, we found that there was an enormous amount of revenue that could be created by automating the process and streamlining the process and making it efficient, so you can extend assets to a customer when necessary, so that they can participate in the process in many capacities, not just through going on the web and starting the digital experience, right? It could be, hey, Mr. Customer, check out this video. Hey, go to this product tour, right? Oh, you don't need download and go anymore. We've got this asset up and running on our SkyTap site. Let's talk about, reserving a time for 4 hours so we can do a proof of technology, right? I would definitely look at organizations that, traditionally have had sales teams. You're not going to be able to replace your sales teams unless you're a startup and that's the way you do business. You're going to have to leverage digital assets to help your sales teams moving forward. It'll be a combination of an in-person experience and a digital experience.
Thank you. Well, one more question before the lightning round, and you're in for a treat here in just a minute. But the last question is, look, you have the last word to briefly summarize the transformation that we've done at IBM around digital.
Fascinating.
All right. That's it? Fascinating? Good. All right. Fantastic.
I would say
the lightning round is just a few personal questions that we like to ask. There's no right or wrong answers. In fact, there's just quick hits. I've got a few for you, and so people get to know you. You ready?
Sure, go for it.
You can do this, right? All right. First question is what is the most important lesson you've learned in life?
Wow. The most important lesson I've learned in life is always be learning. every time I think I know everything, there's something I don't know. So always be learning.
Particularly with the environment we live in today. I always say you graduate with a degree and then you start learning today. Anyway, what leader do you envy the most? I mean, it could be across the industry, anywhere, doesn't have to be in tech. What leader do you envy the most?
Wow. I would say Jack Welch of GE. I think he was wonderful and ahead of his time understanding globalization and how business can, expand, across many continents.
I wonder what he'd say about GE today. Didn't they just get pulled from the Dow?
Yeah, that's why we want him rather than the leader who's there now.
I think that Walgreens replaced them, and I think since the Dow, this may be completely off, but since the Dow's been in existence something like 1896, they've only replaced somewhere around 50. I don't know, something like that, 50 companies, and just this year, I think they replaced GE with Walgreens or something. What are you most proud of?
My family. I'm most proud of my family. I think with a good family life, I've been able to really spend quality time with work and excel. I have a young daughter. I have my wife, but they've been very supportive of everything I've done, my travel schedule. But I'd have to say my family is my biggest accomplishment.
All right, so here's a tough one. If your grandchildren were sitting right here and you were going to give them some wisdom, that one piece of wisdom to pass on, what would you want them to know?
Start early. Fail early, and don't be afraid to ask for promotion early. When you succeed, that's the time to ask for promotion, not when you fail. But always be willing to fail. I think that when I was younger, I was afraid to fail, and it was a lesson that I think I wish. That's the only thing I regret looking back on my life, is not wanting to fail early.
As you said that, I saw our producers, Liam, Kate, and Fatima, rapidly writing this down. So I'm sure they're going to be asking for promotion as soon as we. What does your future hold?
I'm really enjoying my time working under Janine's leadership. I hope to continue. I came actually from worldwide sales. I ran cloud data services last year for hybrid data management for the cloud. And this was just a great a challenge for me. I was asked if I wanted to participate in the digital process, and it's been rewarding. So hopefully I can grow with this team and continue to grow with IBM.
Terrific. Anything that we left unsaid?
By IBM.
Yeah, there we go. I like it. Sounds good. Tom, where can folks go to reach you if they want to? Sure,
they can reach me. It's tjhronis@us.ibm.com. They can Google my name, Tom Hronis, IBM. I've done quite a few lectures and speeches across the world. You can find more information about me, and you can find me on LinkedIn. And I'd love to be friends. So that's that.
Fantastic. And the audience can also reach me on Twitter as well, @Martin_V. Thank you, Tom. You're a good man. Take care of that family of yours. And I greatly appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
All right. Thank you all. See you.
Thanks for listening to the Making Data Simple podcast, where we make data fun. Be sure to visit IBMBigDataHub.com/podcast to access the show notes and uncover even more great episodes. Remember, the views expressed here are those of the host and its guests and do not necessarily represent the views of IBM. Until next time, over and out.